but it's my turn to take over on the show.
Let's rock and roll.
Let's rock and roll because I'm excited to talk to you. We're switching gears to talk a little college football. And aside from the 50 Cent performance, that was undeniably amazing, okay?
Yep.
And absolutely sparked this player that we are going to talk about, which if I had on the bingo card Ty Simpson rapping to many men, that would not have been on my bingo card talking about Friday night of the college football playoff. But I want to talk to you when we talk the draft lens, all right? And we're talking about quarterbacks. There's a lot of conversation, a lot to be left open about who is going to end up being the top quarterback. Even though Fernando Mendoza has separated himself, coming into this, I said that Ty Simpson had the most to prove. So after that victory, and more importantly, after that second half that you saw on the road in a tough environment in Oklahoma, how much confidence do you have in Ty Simpson to be a quarterback and a good quarterback in the NFL?
Yeah, confidence meter post the Oklahoma game, it went from an 8 to a 9.
Yeah.
And the point I'm trying to make is that I was always confident in Ty Simpson in the sense of the fact of that he showed me enough, right? This is a young man that they lost to Florida State week 1, and he had to bounce back, right? And everybody was talking about fire the other head coach, get him out of there, right? Then they had to play another big-time game in Wisconsin. They had to go to Georgia, right? They had to play Tennessee. They played LSU. They've played Vanderbilt. They've played South Carolina. When you look at their schedule from top to bottom, from week 1 all the way to the last game that they just played against Oklahoma, you realize that this may be one of the toughest schedules that we've ever seen a quarterback maneuver. We're talking about just high-profile programs, right, that they had to go through. So this young man is battle-tested. And I know the past few weeks his play kind of wavered, right, and it gave you question marks. But this is the part where I have to challenge people, or I'm going to educate people on this. This Alabama roster is not the Alabama rosters of past, right? So we can't judge him statistically and play-wise versus based off of what the Tua Tagovailoas and the Mac Jones have done in the past, because this roster is not loaded with Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, and Devontae Smith all on the field together. Alabama's best wide receiver is Jeremy Bernard. Jeremy Bernard is probably going to go in the 3rd round. I want to ask you this part too. Who was the last wide receiver for Alabama to go in the 1st round, right? It's been quite a few years since we've had a 1st round wide receiver for Alabama. What about 1st round running backs? It's been a couple years for that too. This is not the same program that it once was, so we cannot judge Ty Simpson. Last year I said the same thing about Jalen Milroe. We couldn't judge Jalen Milroe on the same scope because this is not the same roster. NIL has changed it, so now we have to put these young men in vacuums. And what has Ty Simpson showed me? That he's tough. He's resilient. He's a gamer. He does the right things. He says the right things. His teammates are behind him. He is everything I want in a quarterback. And regardless of what everybody says, I put 70% on my quarterback evaluations on the mental part. 30% goes to the physical, right? 70% goes on the mental, and I believe that Ty Simpson has it.
Yeah, and when you talk about mental toughness, right, and I'm glad you put the percentage on it, this is, I mean, we had jokingly the GOAT of the week, right? As a Alabama woman who had potentially said if she won the Powerball, she's getting rid of Kalen DeBoer and she's getting rid of that athletic director. That was week 1. Okay? Yep. This has been a roller coaster ride in a year where we've seen LSU fire a coach in season. You saw Penn State fire. I mean, it is more cutthroat and ridiculous in college football than it has ever been. And Ty Simpson, like you said, has played by far and away the toughest schedule. And I think the other component of this is everybody's kind of basing that Ryan Williams off of what we thought he was going to be or what he was last year. And he hasn't been the guy we thought he was going to be.
No.
Not at all. And so I think what I liked is what you brought up, the big point about people always evaluated Alabama as, well, they had 4 receivers. They had 2 guys that were going to go in the 1st round, and then the next year they had another 2 guys, and they had a tight end, and they had a running back, and they had a backup running back. I mean, the days of Derrick Henry and Mark Ingram, right, being on the same roster, those days are dead and gone. That's why Nick Saban's no longer in Alabama. This is a different era of college football, and I think Ty Simpson has shown you plenty enough, and all I needed to see was my guy rapping many men to know that that was my QB. I was like, that is a QB that I can buy into. He rallied, and that was an insane environment in Oklahoma and in Norman. It looked, and on top of that, if you've watched Oklahoma this year, a very, very talented defense coached by a very, very smart defensive-minded head coach. So I was very impressed with what I saw from Ty Simpson. But we're going to end with a little buy or sell college football edition, okay? So we've got a couple of statements here. we're going to start off with one that I absolutely know where you're headed, because if there's ever been a guy who has been petitioning for small schools to not be a part of the dance, it is Mr. Keith Sanchez. So I will start with this. Buy or sell. College football playoff auto bids will be eliminated. Buy or sell.
Okay. This one I'm going to go. I'm going to sell that. They shouldn't be eliminated. The 4 Power 4 schools should get in. The
On a
ACC,
technicality,
the
you're selling
SEC,
it.
the Big 12, and the Big 10. They should get in, right?
Yep.
And I think this is what happened. The playoff committee, they overthought this, right?
Yep.
They were overran by the politics of college football and potentially the ACC complaining, the Big 12, and some of these smaller schools complaining that, you know what's going to happen is that this is going to be so heavy SEC and Big 10. So they baked in this conversation of the auto bids for whoever's the highest ranked conference champ dialogue, right? And what happened is this, that you realize that you know who the underdogs are? The underdogs are the Indianas. The underdogs are the Texas Techs. They wanted the Cinderella story, but that was already baked in. And if you historically look back at how college football seasons end, there's always those teams, right? They, like the Oklahoma States, right, that finish 10-2 and they ranked number 11. The Boise States that's ranked in the top 10. So the formula would have already been there. They overthought playing the politics of it. So I'm going to sell. I think that conference championships should mean something. So put those 4 Power 4 team conference champions in, and then the rest, the 8, leave them wide open, right? And honestly, I don't want to see any group of 5 schools. Give them their own bracket. That would be really fun. College football fans would tap into that. It would be another revenue generator, right? And you can see the top teams and the top group of 5 teams go at it. And I think people would really be excited about that too. And it would be an even playing field. And we won't have to cut the goddamn the TV on and seeing Tulane get beat by 30 and JMU get beat by another 30 or 40 points, which was what exactly everybody predicted, right? It wasn't that we were caught off guard or it was a curveball or we didn't expect it. What we expected happened, and you don't want to ever be in that position, right? When you predict a blowout and a blowout happens.
Yeah, it's not good for financials. It's not good for ratings, and they're going to see that when you talk about these, and that will make this decision quickly change, right? Because that's how everything is. Yo, you want to make a point? Go ahead.
If you look at it from week 1, right? Week 1 of the round 1 of playoffs. It went 1 for 4, right? And I'm saying that the Miami and Texas A&M game wasn't a good football game, right? So after the Alabama and Oklahoma game, you went 0 for 3. Saturday was dud after dud after dud, right? And so you don't want that happening because this is revenue driving. You're trying to make a statement of the college football playoffs, and y'all did yourself a disservice by putting teams that once it happened, y'all knew y'all backed yourself in the corner, and y'all said, oh, damn, we dropped the ball.
And the NFL saw it, and they took advantage. They put Bears-Packers on Saturday night, and not a damn person was watching Oregon JMU over Packers-Bears. And I think that's where the point that you made, I'm selling this as well because I agree with you. I want the Power Fours in. But when it comes to this version of college football, because I saw Hawk on ESPN, and I respect you a lot, Hawk, and I understand you went to Toledo, and I get how many players have gone from that school into the NFL. But here's the problem. In the past, guys from the group of 5, they would stay at those schools. Now, with the transfer portal and the way NIL works, if you're great at a smaller school, you're leaving for a big school. Those times of staying and being a part of those programs, that's over with. These small schools are going to be dealing with that at a level that it just doesn't make any sense to try and put a roster of a Power 4 up against a group of 5. It's not fair. Like the talent discrepancy is going to just continue to get bigger and bigger of a gap because of the roster and the amount of money that the bigger schools can afford that these other guys can't. And so putting the group of 5 schools in there is just, it's not basketball. This isn't March Madness, and I understand they want to get the magic of what March Madness is for college basketball, but that's not going to happen. It's not, football and basketball are not the same, and you can't bank off of, well, they may be able to pull it off. When your roster is significantly less talented in football, you're going to get your ass whooped, and that's what happened in both games that we watched happen. So I tried to hold on for the little guy as long as I could. Yeah, I'm out. I'm out on the little guy. Out on the little guy. All right. Next one here. Rueben Bain Jr. is not a top 5 pick anymore. Buy or sell?
I'm selling this because I know what this conversation is based off of, and it's based off his measurables, right? And I'm going to go back to another evaluation point, and I'm going to ruffle some feathers with this one, right? When you pull up the chart and you base a guy off of his measurables and not the film, then I have an issue with that, right? And the issue with Rueben Bain is that people are saying that he has 31-inch or sub 31-inch arms. It's like, okay, he doesn't have enough arm length to be able to play edge rusher, right? Well, guess what? We've seen plenty of edge rushers with 34-inch arms, 35-inch arms, 36-inch arms that y'all bumped up the charts, made them top 10 picks, and they don't know how to get home to a quarterback, right? And it was on film in college that they didn't know how to get to a quarterback. So I think with Rueben Bain, the issue should not be the conversation of is he long enough. The conversation should be he's 6'2.5", almost 300 pounds playing edge rushers, right? He's 280 pounds. So the conversation is, should he move in to the interior defensive line position, or does he have to have athleticism enough to constantly win around the edge? I think the arm length conversation could be really lazy for some people because they're setting these thresholds and they're not watching the film to see how guys actually win. And that's how we end up with guys falling in the draft.
Yep.
And then they end up to the second, third, fourth round, and then they end up really good in the NFL. And then everybody acts surprised, like, how the hell did that happen? Well, it was right there in the film of what this young man could do. So I'm selling that based off of his arm measurements, he should be a second round pick, because if his arms are too short, then they shouldn't be too short for the second round. They should be too short to play in the NFL anyway, right? Like that, like what sense does that make anyway? Like, I can't take him in the first, but I'll take him in the second. That doesn't make any sense. So I'm selling that thought process.
I've never agreed with any sentiment more, and that's because, there are certain things of the draft community that bother me. Probably this is the most obnoxious one. The 1/4 of an inch on the hands. Like, it is every single year. Remember when we thought that Will wasn't going to be able to play left tackle in the NFL? Yeah, how'd that work out for y'all? Like, right. We've had so many guys who are super talented and show it on film who they are as a football player, and they're one measurable off by a small stretch, and everybody in the draft community freaks out. Yeah, enough is enough, guys. Like, I can't. This is like the most obnoxious thing about the draft community, and trust me, there are quite a few obnoxious things about the draft community. So I'm in total agreement with you. Last one here. The Aggies have a Marcel Reed problem. Buy or sell?
I'm going to sell this. I don't think they have a Marcel Reed problem. Marcel Reed has shown that he's one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in all of college football, right? You won 11 games with this young man. You got to be a top 10 team. You made it to the playoffs, right, with Marcel Reed. I think the conversation is that he needs to be developed, but then also, can this offense be schemed more around to fit his skill set? When I think about the Lamar Jacksons, right, I think about the Cam Newtons, right, to where these are quarterbacks they were exceptional runners with the football. And their teams leaned into that and gave him those opportunities. So I think it's a scheme that can be placed around Marcel Reed, because the young man is too dynamic with the football in his hands not to allow him to carry the football 10, 12, 15 times a game. And the passing part, does he have to develop as a passer? Yes, I understand that, but you can win a lot of football games with Marcel Reed. So I don't think all the blame should go to Marcel Reed and say he has an issue.
No, this is pretty reactionary, right, to the game that we just watched. And I'm selling as well, and that's because Miami's got a great defense. And I think that everybody undervalued how good that team was coming into there because of Carson Beck. And I understand, because myself, I didn't have a lot of faith in Carson Beck. But I knew everything else they had around them. And so I think this is a very reactionary take. You also, if you've seen anything about who this man is off the field, that matters more than anything for that specific position. This is a kid who is mature in an era of non-mature players. He balances the dynamic. You heard Mike Elko talk about it on game day. He balances the understanding of putting pressure on the teammates when he needs to and letting loose and doing TikTok dances when he needs to lighten the mood. That is a hard balance to strike in today's era of just NIL and social media and everything that goes on and everything they're expecting of a quarterback. So I think you've seen enough of him this year, and I don't think you can put the blame. I think that's a very reactionary take. I also didn't like that they played that early in the morning. I think next time we should look at the schedule overall for the college football playoff. Just another thing that the NCAA needs to fix.